Emergency alert. Residents are vanishing after midnight sirens. It started subtly, the way rot begins beneath floorboards, unseen until the structure gives way. I was channel surfing, the usual Tuesday night dross washing over me, when the picture on the old plasma screen flickered. Not the usual digital artifacting, but a sudden, jarring switch. For maybe 3 seconds, the screen showed the town square, Market Street intersection, deserted, which wasn't unusual for 11:50 p.m., but the quality was raw and grainy, like old CCTV footage, and drenched in a sickly green luminescence I'd never seen bathe the familiar brickwork of the library or O'Malley's pub. And the shadows, they were stretching, elongating from the base of the war memorial, moving too fast, darting like startled insects where no light source justified their frantic dance. Then, just as suddenly, the screen went black. Not off, but a deep, lightless black. The power indicator light remained stubbornly green. I mashed the remote buttons. Nothing. Unplugging it felt too dramatic. So I just stared at the void where the flickering image had been, a strange unease prickling the back of my neck. Probably just a cable feed glitching out. I told myself, the old wiring in this rented house finally giving up the ghost. But the silence that followed felt heavier, colder. I glanced at my phone, 11:58 p.m. Chloe wasn't back yet. Late shift at the hospital. Usually, she'd text if she was running this late. I tapped out a quick, "Hey, almost done," but the message sat there, unsent, the little sending icon spinning uselessly. No bars. Weird. We usually had perfect reception here. I walked to the window, peering out at the quiet street. Lampposts cast pools of orange light onto empty sidewalks. Henderson's meticulously kept lawn, next door, looked almost blue under the mercury vapor lamps. Everything seemed normal, except it didn't feel normal. It felt brittle, like a held breath waiting to shatter. And then, exactly as the digital clock on the microwave clicked over to 12 a.m., the siren started. Not the volunteer fire department's familiar, rising and falling wail used for drills or the occasional brush fire out by Miller's Creek. This was different. Lower pitch, deeper, resonating not just in my ears but in my chest cavity, a physical thrumming vibration that felt fundamentally wrong. It wasn't a steady tone either. It pulsed unevenly with discordant, slightly off-key harmonic that scraped against my nerves like fingernails on slate. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, blanketing the town in this nauseating, invasive sound. Simultaneously, the microwave clock went dark. The hall light flickered erratically, then died. Outside, the streetlights blinked out one by one, plunging the neighborhood into an oppressive, near-absolute darkness broken only by the faint moonlight filtering through high clouds. My phone was completely dead now, a useless black rectangle. The landline I kept mostly for nostalgic reasons, stone dead. No dial tone, just an empty hiss. We were cut off, adrift. The siren wailed on, its pulsating rhythm seeming to burrow deeper into my skull. Panic flared hot and sharp. This wasn't a storm, wasn't a blackout. This was something else. Something deliberate. Through the throbbing drone of the siren, I strained my ears. Was that movement? Outside? I crept back to front window, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. Using the edge of the curtain, I peered out into the Stygian gloom. The pulsing siren made it hard to focus, the sound waves seeming to warp the very air. But I saw him, Henderson, standing on his lawn, perfectly still, facing not toward my house or the street, but angled towards the direction the siren seemed strongest, somewhere downtown. He wasn't moving, not even swaying slightly, just standing there, a rigid silhouette against the slightly less black backdrop of his prize-winning rose bushes. Why was he outside? The siren was deafening, painful. No one would voluntarily stand in that. Unless they couldn't help it. A primal urge screamed at me to lock the doors, barricade myself in. I fumbled with the deadbolt, the click echoing unnaturally loud in the siren-filled silence between pulses. Then I checked the back door, sliding the chain across. My hands were shaking. Chloe. Where was Chloe? Was she still at the hospital? Caught on the road? The thought of her out there, in this, whatever this was, sent a fresh wave of ice through my veins. If only I'd insisted she take the earlier shift. If only we lived closer to the hospital. Useless thoughts, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. The siren droned on. 5 minutes. 10. It felt like an eternity. Then, as abruptly as it started, it stopped. The silence that crashed down was profound, absolute, and somehow more terrifying than the noise. It pressed in on my eardrums, a physical weight. I risked another look out the window. Henderson's lawn was empty. He was gone, vanished. Where could he have gone so quickly, so silently? There was nowhere to hide on that perfect green expanse. It was as if the darkness itself had swallowed him the moment the sound stopped. I backed away from the window, breathing hard. The silence wasn't empty. It felt watchful, pregnant with unseen threat. That's when the tapping started. Soft, rhythmic at the front door. Tap, 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 tap. My blood ran cold. Henderson? But he couldn't have gotten back here that fast. Could he? I crept toward the peephole, my hand trembling so badly I could barely hold it steady. The distorted fisheye lens showed only the empty porch, steeped in shadow. Tap, 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 tap. It was coming from lower down, near the mail slot. Was it just the wind rattling something? But there was no wind. The air outside was deathly still. Then I saw it, through the mail slot, a single fingertip, pale and waxy-looking in the gloom, tapping rhythmically against the metal flap. Tap, 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 tap. I stumbled backwards, clapping a hand over my mouth to stifle a cry. It wasn't trying to get in. It was just tapping, announcing itself, or trying to lure me. I retreated further into the house, heart hammering. The tapping continued for another minute, then stopped. Silence descended again, thicker, more menacing than before. I needed information, needed to understand. I remembered an email Chloe's paranoid cousin Dale had forwarded last week. Some local conspiracy forum thread about strange signal tests and late-night occurrences near the old radio tower on Sentinel Hill. I deleted it, laughing it off. Now, the memory felt chilling. Could there have been warnings? Clues I'd ignored? My laptop was dead, of course. Everything electronic was. But maybe someone else knew something. Maybe someone left a message. Driven by a desperate hope, I checked my phone again. Still dead. But wait, there was a voicemail notification icon, barely visible, frozen on the black screen before it faded completely. It must have come through right before everything died. If the phone had even a sliver of residual power. I plugged it into my portable power bank, praying. The screen flickered. Stay black. Useless. Then I remembered the old answer machine tucked away in the study, connected to the dead landline. Ancient tech. Maybe. I rushed to the study, fumbling in the dark of the machine. Found the play button by touch. It whirred, clicked. A voice, tinny and distorted, filled the silence. It was Dale. Panic roughened his usually languid tones. Leo, man, pick up. It's happening. The thing I told you about. Midnight. The sirens. Don't go outside. Whatever you do, don't go outside when they sound. They take people. Henderson, next door to you? He went out. Leo, I saw him from my attic window. Just standing there like he was listening. Then the sound stopped and he just folded. Like laundry, man. He folded up and was gone. And there's something else. If you see them, if you see someone you know after the sirens, it's not them. Don't look at them. Don't let them see you. Block the windows. And the sound, gotta block the sound. But silence, the silence afterward hums. If the silence hums, hide. Don't let it find you in the hum. Call me back. Leo, call me. The message cut off abruptly into static hiss. He folded, like laundry. The image seared itself into my brain. Henderson hadn't just vanished. He'd been taken, changed, and the silence humming. I strained my ears again, listening past the frantic thumping of my own blood. Was there a faint, almost subaudible hum underlying quiet? Or was it just tinnitus from the earlier siren assault? I couldn't be sure. But Dale's terror was real. The rules, he stammered out. Don't go out during the sirens. The vanished aren't gone, they're changed. Avoid them. Block the sound. If the silence hums, hide. It was insane. But Henderson's empty lawn, the tapping finger, it was happening. I had to secure the house. Properly. I grabbed blankets, duct tape, anything I could find to cover the windows, blocking any view in or out, working frantically in the dark, guided only by the faint moonlight that seeped around the edges. I sealed myself in. Each piece of tape smoothed down felt like another bar on a cage. But was I locking myself in or locking it out? Chloe. My thoughts kept circling back to her. The hospital was across town. How could I possibly reach her? Was she even still there? What if she tried to come home when the sirens hit? The possibilities were paralyzing. Stay here. Follow Dale's frantic rules. Hope she was safe somewhere else? Or risk everything. Go out into that humming silence, into the domain of the change, and find her? If only she hadn't taken a late shift. If only her car wasn't in the shop, forcing her to rely on the late bus that cut through the deserted downtown. Regret was a physical pain. I had to try. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. If she was out there, staying here felt like a death sentence of a different kind. Weapon. I needed a weapon. The heaviest thing I owned was a tire iron in the garage. The garage, attached to the house. But I'd have to go through the connecting door in the kitchen. Listening intently at the door, I heard nothing, just that maybe humming silence. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and slipped inside, pulling it shut behind me. The garage was pitch black. I fumbled along the wall for the light switch. Useless, of course. My fingers brushed against something cold, metallic. My reflection in the small mirror hanging by the door, the one I used to check for grease smudges. I froze. Dale hadn't mentioned mirrors. But something felt wrong. Some other half-forgotten local superstition tickled my memory. Something about reflections during strange times? Or maybe it was just my fear projecting onto the dark glass. I couldn't see anything clearly anyway. Shaking it off, I felt my way toward the workbench where I kept the tools. My hand closed around the cold, heavy steel the tire iron, comforting yet terrifyingly inadequate. As I turned to leave, my foot kicked something soft. A pile of rags? No. I crouched, feeling blindly. Fabric. Denim. A shoe. My blood turned to ice. It was Henderson's gardening shoe, the distinctive orthopedic one he always wore. And the leg attached to it. It wasn't lying naturally. It was bent at an impossible angle. The bone clearly snapped, but there was no body attached. Just a leg, severed raggedly just above the knee, lying in a dark, sticky pool of something that smelled coppery and rank. He hadn't just vanished. He'd been taken apart. Bile rose in my throat. I scrambled backwards, bumping into the garage door. A sound came from outside, on the driveway. A soft, dragging scrape, like something heavy being pulled across the concrete, followed by a wet, guttural clicking sound. I held my breath, pressing myself flat against the inside of the garage door. Peeking through the small, grimy window panel near the top, I saw movement. A shape, vaguely man-sized but distorted, jerky, dragging something limp and shapeless behind it. It paused directly in front of the garage, the clicking sound intensifying. Its head, if you could call it that, it seemed indistinct and shifting in the dark, tilted as if listening. Could it hear me breathing? Could it sense me? Then it turned its attention to the house, shuffling towards the front porch, towards the tapping finger from before. Were they coordinating? I didn't wait to find out. Heart pounding, I slipped back into the kitchen, locking the connecting door, my hand slick with sweat on the knob. The leg, the dragging shape. This was worse than vanishing. They weren't just changed. They were being used, dismantled, puppeteered by something monstrous. The humming silence felt louder now, pressing in. Hide. Dale's voice echoed in my head. If the silence hums, hide. Where? The basement? It was damp, dark, unfinished, but maybe safer than the main floor. I crept toward the basement door, the tire iron held ready, pulled it open, peered down into the utter blackness. It smelled of damp earth and something else. Ozone? Like the air before a lightning strike. Taking a tentative step down, the old wooden stairs groaned under my weight. I froze, listened. Nothing from upstairs. I descended slowly, each step a potential betrayal. Reaching the bottom, I felt my way along the cold concrete wall until I found the deepest corner, behind the old furnace. I crouched there, making myself small, tire iron gripped tight, listening to the humming silence and the frantic beat of my own heart. Time lost meaning. Minutes stretched into elastic hours. The humming seemed to fade in and out, sometimes a barely perceptible thrum beneath the silence, sometimes a clear, low-frequency vibration I felt in my bones. Was it searching, or just existing? Then a new sound from upstairs. Faint at first. Music? No, singing. A woman's voice, humming a simple tune. It sounded familiar. Terribly familiar. Chloe. It sounded exactly like Chloe humming the silly song she made up for our cat. But it wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the house. Upstairs. Near the front? Was she back? Had she somehow gotten in? Hope surged, warring with a deeper, colder dread. How could she be humming so calmly if she come home to this? Unless, if you see someone you know after the sirens, it's not them. The humming continued, moving slowly through the house, getting closer to the basement door. My blood ran cold. Was it her? Or was it one of them, using her voice, her song as bait? The humming stopped directly outside the basement door. Silence. Then a soft knock. Chloe's knock. 2 quick taps, pause, 1 tap. Our old signal. Leo. Her voice. Clear as day, laced with fear. Leo, are you down there? I got home. The door was unlocked. Everything's dark. I'm scared. Let me in. It sounded exactly like her. The slight tremor, the specific cadence. But Dale's warning screamed louder. It's not them. And the humming, I hadn't heard the external humming, while her voice was active. Was that the trick? Did they project familiarity to override the warning signs? Leo, please. Her voice broke, filled with convincing panic. I saw Mr. Henderson outside earlier. He looked wrong. Please, open the door. A choice. A terrible choice. Trust my ears. Trust the voice I loved. Hope Dale was wrong or paranoid. Or trust the desperate warning. The evidence of Henderson's fate. The unnatural wrongness of the night. And condemn Chloe. The real Chloe, potentially, to whatever waited outside that door. My hand hovered over the simple slide bolt. If I opened it and it wasn't her, if I didn't open it and it was her, the psychological vice tightened. The memory of Henderson's severed leg, the dragging shape. I couldn't risk it. Not for her, not for me. With tears stinging my eyes, I stayed silent, pressed back in the shadows, the tire iron feeling heavy and useless. Leo! Silence. Then a soft sigh from the other side of the door. Not a sigh of sadness, but of dismissal, followed by the faint sound of footsteps moving away. Did I do the right thing? The doubt was a physical ache. If only I could know for sure. But the rules were all I had. I stayed hidden in the basement for what felt like another lifetime. The humming silence returned, perhaps fainter now. Eventually, the oppressive darkness outside began to gray. Dawn. Was it over? Had the night passed? Cautiously, moving with agonizing slowness, I crept up the basement stairs. Listened at the door. Silence. Still silence. No humming, no voices. I slid the bolt back and eased the door open. The house was still dark, windows blocked, but faint gray light seeped in around the edges of the blankets. It felt empty, truly empty this time. I moved through the rooms, tire iron held high, checking corners, closets. Nothing. No sign of Chloe, real or otherwise. No sign of disturbance beyond my own frantic barricading. Had the thing that mimicked her voice simply given up and left? I risked peeling back a corner of the blanket over the kitchen window. Outside, the pre-dawn light revealed a street that was simultaneously familiar and terrifyingly alien. Empty, utterly deserted. No cars moved. No curtains twitched in neighboring windows, but there were inconsistencies. A bicycle lying on its side on a lawn 3 houses down. Front was still spinning slowly. A single shoe sitting neatly in the middle of the road. Smudges on windows, like faces had been pressed against them from the inside. Subtle signs of disruption, of lives interrupted mid-motion. In Henderson's lawn it looked disturbed, scuffed, as if something heavy had been dragged across it. Toward the back, towards the woods that bordered our town, relief warred with crushing guilt and uncertainty. I had survived the night. But Chloe, where was Chloe? Had she made it to the hospital? Was she hiding somewhere? Or had she been caught outside when the sirens hit? The not knowing was a fresh hell. Maybe the hospital was a place to go. Surely it had backup generators? Security? Other survivors? It was miles away, but it was a destination. A purpose. I gathered a few supplies. The power bank, still useless, a bottle of water, the tire iron, and prepared to venture out. Before leaving, I paused in the hallway, glanced at the mirror hanging there, just my own reflection. Pale, haggard, eyes wide with trauma. But as I turned away, a flicker of movement in the periphery caught my eye. I snapped my head back. The reflection stared back, identical. Just my fear again? Nerves frayed to the breaking point? Or was it the rule I'd half remembered? Avoid mirrors? Had I looked too long? I pushed the thought away. Paranoia. Had to focus. Get to the hospital. Find Chloe. I slipped out the back door into the gray, silent world. The air felt thin, strangely metallic. Every shadow seemed too deep, every distant sound amplified. I moved quickly, sticking to backyards, alleyways, avoiding the open streets. The silence was unnerving. No birdsong, no distant traffic. Just the sound of my own footsteps crunching on gravel, my own ragged breathing. It felt wrong. Too quiet. Was the humming truly gone, or had I just stopped being able to perceive it? As I cut to the park near downtown, I saw it. Another siren pole, identical to the one scattered throughout town. But this one was damaged. Bent at the base, the speaker horn dangling toward the ground, cracked. And beneath it, the pile. Not rags. Clothes. Piled neatly. Jeans, a shirt, socks, shoes. Empty. Like someone had simply evaporated out of them. Vanished. My pace quickened, desperation clawing at me. The hospital came into view, its bulk looming against the gray sky. Some lights were on. Flickering emergency lights, perhaps? The main entrance doors were shattered, glass littering the walkway. Not a good sign. I approached cautiously, tire iron raised. Peered inside the dim lobby. Empty. Overturned chairs. Scattered papers. A dark stain spreading across the reception desk. Chloe? I called out, my voice hoarse, echoing in the cavernous space. No answer. I moved deeper inside, checking rooms, calling her name, past ER, toward the wards where she worked. The silence here was different. Heavy, oppressive, and cold, unnaturally cold. In the corridor leading to her usual ward, I found a doctor's pager lying on the floor, cracked. I picked it up. The small screen flickered faintly. A single message frozen. 12:01 a.m. Siren active. Code nightfall. Shelter in place. Do not engage patients exhibiting auditory fixation or motor rigidity. Repeat. Do not engage. Auditory fixation. Motor rigidity. Like Henderson. They knew. They had protocols. But it hadn't saved them. The ward doors were closed. I pushed one open slowly. Rows of empty beds. Some neatly made, others disturbed. Sheets trailing onto the floor. No patients. No staff. No Chloe. But at the far end of the ward, near the window overlooking the back parking lot, something glinted. I approached cautiously. It was Chloe's necklace, the silver locket I gave her, lying on the floor by the window. The window was broken, shards of glass on the sill, and the ground outside. Had she dropped it? Had she escaped this way? Or had she been taken? Hope, fragile and painful, flickered again. Maybe she got out. Maybe she tried to head home, or somewhere else she thought was safe. I had to keep looking. As I turned to leave the ward, I glanced back at the broken window. Outside, in the parking lot, stood a lone figure, stock still, facing away from the hospital, towards a rising sun, wearing hospital scrubs. Even from this distance, I recognized the set of the shoulders, the way they held their head. It looked like Dr. Adams, the chief resident Chloe complained about. He was just standing there, motionless, like Henderson had been. A change. I backed away slowly, retreating from the ward, out of the hospital, back into the silent, empty town. I had survived the night, but survival felt hollow, pointless. The rules had kept me alive, but at what cost? The memory of ignoring Chloe's voice at the basement door, the image of Henderson's leg, the empty clothes beneath the siren pole, Chloe's locket by the broken window. They would haunt me forever. I needed to warn others. If anyone else survived, if anyone could receive a warning. I found an old handheld radio in a deserted pawn shop, its batteries miraculously still holding a charge. I don't know if this frequency even reaches anyone. I don't know if anyone is left to hear it, but I have to try. This is Leo Thorne, broadcasting from Oak Haven, or what's left of it. If you're hearing this, the sirens, they're not a test. It started last night, midnight. They cut everything off. People vanished. Or changed. There are rules. You can't go out when the sirens sound. Avoid anyone you see outside afterwards. They aren't who you think they are. Block the sound. But listen to the silence. If it hums, hide. Don't trust familiar voices if they sound too perfect, or they come when the humming stops. And mirrors. Dale didn't mention mirrors, but avoid them. I think they show something wrong. Or maybe they let something in. I don't know. The origin's irrelevant. Just survive. I thought I made it. I thought I was clear. But as I record this, my hand keeps straining to touch the radio's smooth surface, and my own voice, it sounds strange in my ears. A little too steady. A little too calm after everything I saw. And sometimes when I pause, I think I can hear a faint, rhythmic pulsing just beneath my own words. Almost like a second heartbeat. Or an echo. If you're listening, if you made it through this broadcast, stay safe. Trust the rules. Maybe, and if you found this story compelling or terrifying, please consider liking this recording and subscribing to the channel. Knowing someone is listening might be the only thing keeping me grounded right now. Or maybe it just gives the echo another voice to learn.